Back when I was in high school, I worked weekends at a small gas station in our town. It was an old place. One register, two pumps, and a back office that looked like it hadn't been touched since the 70s. The only phone in the building was a corded landline behind the counter. Most nights were uneventful. I'd sweep the floors, restock shelves, and try to stay awake until closing. But there was one night I'll never forget, and I still don't know how to explain it. Around 11:45 p.m., the phone rang. Late calls weren't unusual. Sometimes people phoned to ask if we were still open. But when I picked it up, there was nothing. Just silence. After a few seconds, the line went dead. 5 minutes later, it rang again. This time when I answered, I heard breathing. Slow, heavy breathing. I said hello a few times, but the caller didn't respond. Just that steady inhale and exhale. I hung up. I tried to shrug it off, but my nerves were on edge. The store was empty, the highway outside nearly deserted. Every little sound seemed amplified, the hum of the cooler, the buzz of the fluorescent lights overhead. Then the phone rang a third time. When I picked it up, the breathing was louder, more deliberate. I slammed the phone down and walked to the front window, scanning the lot. Nothing. For the next 20 minutes, the phone kept ringing. Sometimes the caller stayed silent. Sometimes it was just that awful breathing. Once, I swear I heard a whisper, so faint I couldn't make out the words. At 12:30, the phone rang again. My patience snapped. I grabbed the receiver and shouted, "Who is this? What do you want?" And then, clear as day, I heard my own voice on the other end. It was me, repeating my words back to me with a half-second delay. "Who is this? What do you want?" I dropped the phone so fast it clattered against the counter. My hands were shaking. There was no way it could have been an echo. The phone line wasn't capable of that. It was like someone had recorded me and was playing it back instantly. I backed away from the counter, debating whether to call the police from my cell phone. That's when the store's front door creaked. I turned, heart racing, but the door was still locked. No one had come in. At exactly 1 a.m., the phone rang one last time. Against my better judgment, I answered. A voice, low, gravelly, said just 2 words. "Turn around." I spun so fast I nearly fell over, but the store was empty. Still, I swear the air behind me felt heavier, like someone had been standing inches away and had just moved. The line went dead. I refused to spend the last hour alone. I locked the register, sat outside on the curb, and waited for the morning shift. When my manager arrived, I told him what happened. He gave me a strange look and said the last night clerk quit for the same reason, mysterious late-night calls from the second caller. I never worked a night shift again. In 2017, I took a road trip from Texas to Colorado. I drove alone, stopping in small towns along the way to rest. One night, I checked into a rundown roadside hotel outside Amarillo. The place looked half abandoned, but it was cheap, and I was too exhausted to keep driving. I was given room 6. The hallway smelled of mildew, and the carpet was worn thin. When I opened the door, the air inside was cold, unnaturally cold. The heater was off, but my breath fogged in front of me. I chalked it up to bad insulation and went to bed. Around 2 a.m., I woke to the sound of running water. The bathroom sink was on full blast. I hadn't touched it. I stumbled over, turned it off, and crawled back under the blanket. Minutes later, I heard scratching. Soft, steady, coming from inside the closet across from the bed. I told myself it was a mouse, but the scratching grew louder, faster, until it sounded like fingernails raking wood. I grabbed my phone for light, swung the door open. Nothing. The closet was empty. I barely slept. At dawn, I packed up quickly. As I left the room, I noticed something I swear hadn't been there the night before. A handprint smeared on the inside of the mirror above the sink. Small, almost childlike, and oddly high, as if someone had pressed it from the other side of the glass. When I checked out, the desk clerk gave me a tired look. I joked, trying to shake off my nerves. "You've got a haunted room up there." She didn't laugh. She just asked quietly, "Room 6? When I nodded, she sighed. Then she told me the story. Years earlier, a family had stayed in that room, parents with their young daughter. One night, the little girl went missing. No forced entry, no broken locks. Her parents swore she'd been asleep in the bed when they closed their eyes. But by morning, she was gone. Police searched every inch of the building and the surrounding fields. They never found her. The clerk said some guests complained of noises in the closet or of water turning on by itself. A few reported seeing a child's handprint on the mirror, just like I had. I didn't stay to hear more. I got in my car and drove without stopping until I hit the Colorado border. To this day, I avoid roadside motels altogether. And every so often, when I'm in a hotel bathroom brushing my teeth, I catch myself checking the mirror, half expecting to see a tiny hand pressed against the glass from the other side. When I was 16, my best friend lived in an old farmhouse just outside of town. The place had been in her family for generations, and though it was beautiful in the daytime, at night it carried a heaviness that made me uneasy. The rooms were drafty, the floors creaked constantly, and the long hallway upstairs always seemed darker than it should be. One Friday, I slept over at her house. We stayed up late watching movies in her room, which had 2 twin beds pushed against opposite wall. By midnight, we finally shut off the TV and went to sleep. Sometime in the night, I woke up. I didn't know why at first. The house was quiet, no one moving around. But then I felt it, the sensation that someone was watching me. Her room had a single large window that faced the yard. The curtains weren't drawn all the way, and in the gap, I saw a face, pale, expressionless, pressed up against the glass. I shot upright in bed, heart hammering. The face didn't move. It just stared in at us. I wanted to scream, but my voice caught in my throat. Instead, I reached across and shook my friend awake. She groggily asked what was wrong, but when she followed my gaze to the window, she froze. We both saw it. Her first reaction was to shout for her dad. Footsteps thundered down the hall, and the light flicked on. The instant her father entered the room, the face was gone. He ran outside with a flashlight, combing the yard, circling the house. Nothing. No footprints in the dirt beneath the window. No sign anyone had been there. Her parents tried to calm us, insisting it must have been a trick of the light, or maybe a reflection. But we knew what we saw. It wasn't vague. It wasn't a shadow. It was a man's face, clear as day. The next morning, still shaken, we sat at the kitchen table when her grandmother, who had lived in that house all her life, spoke up quietly. "You girls saw him, didn't you?" We asked what she meant. She told us that decades earlier, a farmhand who had worked the land died in that very house. Some said he was unstable, obsessed with the family, especially the children. Her mother used to warn her never to leave the curtains open at night because he still liked to watch. I remember the way my friend's dad snapped at her grandmother to stop. But the look on her face said everything. I never slept at that farmhouse again. My friend admitted later that she sometimes still saw the face in the window, even as an adult, when she visited her parents. She tried to convince herself it was imagination, but she never left the curtains open. And to this day, when I'm in a room with an uncovered window at night, I can't shake the feeling that if I look too long, I'll see him there, silent, waiting, watching.